2024, look forward to 2025, talk a little bit about the market outlook, about our business development activities, and of course about the technology development. And then towards the end, just a little bit about how we are now positioning ourselves for the future and for the next years to come. Just to remind ourselves a little bit what SeaTwirl is all about, we have updated this video, which we have had for a while, but for a much smaller turbine. We have now updated it with the big turbine that we are basically going to market with now. We still call it the S3, it might change at some point, but for now we still work with the name S3, and it is, as you can see, just a 3-bladed turbine like before and on a rotating spar. And this is basically the SeaTwirl concept in all its glory, you can say. So the generator house in the middle is moored to the seabed. The rotor on the top is attached to the floating foundation, which is a spar, and therefore the spar is also rotating with the rotor. And this obviously has a range of advantages that we think will be highly competitive in the floating offshore wind market. We also have a model here with us that you can see, obviously, and that is it's actually also working in a tank with water, which we may see later on. So what is the strength of the SeaTwirl solution? Well, we have eliminated a number of systems that conventional wind turbines need, and therefore there are fewer systems in the SeaTwirl turbine that can break. We believe that will have a profound impact on the cost of operations for the turbine. We think it will have a profound impact on the reliability of the turbine. And since the generator house is now located down on the sea or very close to the sea surface, the fact that you have such easy access to all the components that is normally in need of maintenance, that will also significantly reduce the cost of maintenance. On top of that, we believe a lower weight of the turbine, lower cost to produce it, to manufacture it, and a range of other advantages as well. We offer to the market flexibility in terms of we can adapt our technology to the customer and to the customer's needs, and we think, in fact, that we have a rather unique solution for this market. The design philosophy is based on a number of key differences compared to conventional turbines. As you can see, for instance, we have several small components instead of one single big component. Because our generator house is located close to the surface instead of at the top of the tower, that also has a lot of advantages, as we have also listed here. It's easier to access, easiest to lift, easier to replace components, much less seasickness for people who are working in the turbine, and so forth. We are also aiming to use standardized components that can be acquired from the market off the shelf and does not need a great amount of customization. So the largest and heaviest component in our structure that we expect to need replacement once in a while is actually only 10 to 12 tons, and that is significantly less than conventional turbines. So this is one of our key unique selling points. We have illustrated this in this picture. You can see how even this very small crane on the vessel can do the maintenance on our turbine and replace even the heaviest components. So this is one of the key differentiators between us and conventional turbines. So this brings us to the purpose and vision and values. We would like to enable floating wind power wherever it is needed, and it means that we do not only aim for the biggest possible projects where scale is the solution. Scale is in fact a requirement almost in order to make a project possible. We would like to also open the market for smaller projects, smaller electrification projects, and as we call it, the hard to abate industries. So for instance, electrification of the oil and gas platforms. That is a massive source of emissions and very, very difficult to electrify or to decarbonize. And that is a key market that we aim for. Our vision is to become a leading supplier of offshore wind turbines. We are clearly not today at the size where we are able to take the responsibility as a major supplier, but that is our vision, to become a supplier. We have 5 core values: passionate about sustainability and climate change, We're creative, open-minded, and solutions-oriented. We're collaborative, inclusive, and we care about each other. And we are technical, but also commercial. We understand that we need to be agile in this market. And finally, we also recognize and we strive for equality and diversity. And I would really also like to point out the strength of the team. So we are a group of people that is really the heart and the brain of this company. And that is the engineers and others who are working in the group upstairs from where we are now every day and doing really fantastic work to bring this vision to life, or this technology to life, basically. And I think we can also see how they have now, over the last few days, just pulled together this amazing model that we have in front of us, and that we can see more of later as well. So some reflections back on 2024. One of the key things we were doing last year was to develop the largest possible turbine that we think we can build without introducing pitch into the system. And as I said in the beginning, that's one of our key differentiators, trying to eliminate all these complicated systems that has a tendency to break and to be very costly. So we have basically said that the turbine that we can see on the picture here, what we call the S3, is the biggest turbine we can do without pitch. And that one has now become a very mature design. So that is what we are now basically taking to the market. That has been a major focus for 2024. But something else has also been very important, and that is we have worked a lot with integrating energy storage into the turbine. We have seen that, especially for the electrification projects, we need to have stable power supply. And we need energy storage, batteries, basically, to supply that stable power. So that has also been a major focus for 2024, and we have achieved some amazing results, and I'll come back to that later. We have had a number of collaborations signed during 2024, MOUs. We had Berlin, which is a battery supplier, a very important strategic collaborator based in Aberdeen in Scotland. We have signed an MOU with Sumitomo in Japan, still working very hard with Sumitomo to try and build a turbine in Japan. And we have signed an MOU with Serica Energy in Scotland, oil and gas company operating one of the biggest oil platforms in the whole of the North Sea. We've done an organizational transformation in the second half of last year, which I think has really positioned us much better for the future. We have now a separate R&D function. We have a vertical with business development and soft funding, and we have a clear productification focus in the product development role that is really taking the technology, conceptual technology, into a proper product. And we have also a new communications and investor relations manager who's going to support us in taking this to market, basically. And we have a very strong cost control and cost focus during last year. We have actually extended our runway by almost 1 year through a number of actions we have taken. And that will, of course, also prevail in the future as well, the strict cost control. But projections for 2025, we have intentions to launch a major technical improvement this year, and that we think can have even more impact on our story, so that we think it can become even more attractive for investors to come in and invest into the company and obviously buy the product. We will continue the optimization work and the cost out activities. It's a very clear process to begin somewhere with a robust design, and then you start working on the cost out to reduce the cost and improve performance. We are working very actively now with the suppliers again, building confidence with them, looking at various markets where we have customer dialogues and speaking to supply chain there. And of course, to just build credibility in the market that the design we offer is actually working. And it's not that easy when all the tools that is normally used in the market are based on a horizontal axis wind turbine design. So when the tools are not really working for our design, we need to provide that confidence through our own tools and our own communication. It's more difficult to do a third-party review of our technology compared to more mature or more conventional technologies. We are working with the partnerships, of course, continue with that as we are now, establish solid partnerships both in the supply chain but also, of course, in different markets for various roles. And we are exploring setting up project development teams in other countries potentially as well. So that is just some of the projections for 2025. The market outlook. Oops. Here we go. So of course we see a lot of geopolitical turmoil at the moment. We see the trade war going up and down. It's little bit of a roller coaster, but that's obviously bringing uncertainty into the market. We see the climate targets being challenged in many different ways, and they are under pressure, but we also see where they are holding up and where they are sort of coming back as well. And of course, we see a technology race that is faster than ever. We have seen how it has affected, for instance, the battery industry, and how the battery prices have just collapsed almost, and created a very difficult position for European manufacturers, of course, for instance. So we are very much on top of all of these macro trends and trying to position ourselves where we both think that we will be sort of protected from some of it, but also where we think we can lead in and take advantage of these trends. So for instance, where I mentioned the reduced cost of batteries, that is something we obviously try to take advantage of and introduce batteries into the system. For offshore wind, there is still a strong commitment in Europe for offshore wind. I think the determination in the EU is remaining that offshore wind is going to be the backbone of European electricity system from 2040 and onwards. Clearly, there are challenges in the US at the moment. We recently saw the permits for a big project in New York State being withdrawn, even though they had been given and the the final investment decision had been taken. And that is clearly a massive disruption to not only this industry, but any industries in making business in the US. So very big risk and uncertainty there. But it has also created opportunities for us. So for instance, the Canadian market has suddenly become a very interesting market for us as a result of this, you can say. But we also see relatively steady progress in Asia. China is steaming ahead and moving forward as fast as ever. Korea is one of the more stable markets in the world. Japan is moving forward, and we are also working in Southeast Asia, where we see still quite a lot of interest. But in general, in the floating wind market right now, given the macro trends and market conditions, it's much more of a push than a pull. The North Sea markets have been quite slow for a while, but for instance, Norway, we hope can move forward now very soon. Norway is moving into an election in September this year, and floating offshore wind is one of the big discussion points in the Norwegian elections. So we think Norway can become quite hot very soon. And finally, the electrification market, electrification of oil and gas, driven by policy. It is basically the CO2 taxes and other incentives that is going to try and make the oil and gas industry decarbonize. And that has, again, been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. It's gone up and down, and right now it's a bit slow, but we think, again, for instance, Norway, with a new election now, can move forward rather soon. We certainly hope so. So our activities in the business development area is, as you can see, global. We have been in the North Sea in Europe for a long time. We have been working in the Mediterranean Sea, a little bit in the Baltics, not very much. It's a lot of shallow areas in the Baltics, so not a great focus for us. But Southeast Asia has been a great focus 2024. Japan, of course, with the MOU with Sumitomo, big focus. We have received a lot of interest from China, and we have a dialogue with Chinese players. And in the oil and gas electrification sector, we also have a lot of interest from the Middle East, actually. So that's an interesting one because they have very limited winds, but there is still opportunity there if we can be creative and also working with the batteries. But Canada has quickly come up as one of the main focus areas for us. there is a lot of small communities, island communities, completely disconnected from any other grid in Canada, and they rely on subsidized diesel, which is clearly a very expensive source of electricity. So that's interesting. Soft funding, as you may know, we have applied for a very large program in the EU called Horizon Europe. We hope to have a response back from them this summer. We are planning to do other applications in Norway, also in Canada, and potentially also elsewhere, and we have a dedicated person focusing on the soft funding opportunities. So on the technology development side, today we have 3 turbine models that we basically show to the market. It's the S2 that you can see in the middle. This one has been around for a while. It has been designed up to detailed design, so it's a mature design, but it's also designed for a rather benign area, and it's not designed for the harsh conditions in the North Sea, for instance. So it has a different market potential than the other 2. The small turbine to the left is a 200 kilowatt turbine, specifically designed for applications in the oil and gas industry to electrify subsea processes that are normally run by electricity from a cable from a platform. And that is an interesting opportunity to reduce the costs for the operators by replacing that cable with a wind turbine. And of course, again, the S3 that you can see to the right, the big 6 megawatt machine, that is now quite mature and that we really try to push out to the market. Again, the small one, the 200 kilowatt machine, you can see here how combined with batteries, it can really operate or power the systems on the seabed. Compressors or pumps or other type of equipment. It might also be military applications for these turbines. We see a lot of new opportunities, you can call it, with surveillance systems for underwater infrastructure. So that's also something we clearly stay on top of, and we're really active trying to support the defense industry in these kind of systems. Again, the S2 turbine that I mentioned before, and again the S3 turbine that I also mentioned before. You see a little bit more of the dimensions of the structure. So the blade here is 102 meters, the rotor diameter 128 meter, and the draft of the spar is 77 meters. Here we just see an illustration of the size of our turbines compared to the conventional turbine. And the turbine you see to the left here is a 15 megawatt turbine, and that is the smallest available offshore wind turbine today with the conventional suppliers. Vestas and Siemens and GE and others, they are not really offering smaller turbines to the market than the 15 megawatt. So we see that trend continuing. The turbines are just continuing to grow, and it drives also the challenge of putting such a turbine on a floater. And that's why we think we will sort of operate mostly in a different market with smaller turbines and potentially smaller projects. But this is just an illustration of the size of these structures. I mentioned already our collaboration with the Scottish battery supplier Verloom, very important and very promising, and as I mentioned, the cost reduction for batteries is also helping this forward. And it gives a whole different value proposition where you can offer a much more stable power supply than without batteries. So clearly you can see how the wind is going up and down over the year, and this is from the North Sea, and it's a very clear pattern in the North Sea that during the summer months you have much less wind than during the winter months, so you have a dip there during the summer. And now I'm basically coming into this example of electrifying oil and gas. This is just how it could look if you would go for a typical platform in the North Sea requiring 30 or 40, sometimes 50 megawatt. You would need a handful of these turbines. And we have done some very in-depth analysis of how it could work to electrify an oil platform. We see that if we would take a 6 megawatt case, so a rather small electrification project, 6 megawatt demand. We would then use two 4 megawatt wind turbines and 2 times 18 megawatt hour of batteries. And what you see on these graphs is basically how the gas turbine on the platform would be used to balance the wind. How much operating time of the gas turbine and how many starts and stops of the gas turbine. And this is the result. So the gas turbine would actually only be running 9% of the time if you would electrify with our turbines this way. It wouldn't reduce 91% of the emissions, but it would reduce, I think it's 84% of the emissions. The reason it's not sort of a one-to-one correlation there is that when you start a gas turbine and you stop a gas turbine, it actually emits a little bit more gases. There are, however, requirements on how often you can start and stop a gas turbine. So if we impose more of these frame sort of conditions on it, it will be somewhat reduced, but this is at least in theory what you can aim for, something like 80 to 90% CO2 reduction with offshore wind electrifying oil and gas. This is very promising, and it will really be an interesting business case as the CO2 tax just continue to go up. So that's quite promising, quite exciting. So now we are just positioning ourselves to really go to the market and offer our technology to the market. I'm really happy to be able to share an LCOE curve. We haven't really done that before. We haven't been confident enough to produce an LCOE curve and show an LCOE curve to the market. But this is, I'm not sure you can read, I hope you can read it, but basically to the left you have very small volumes of turbines built, so basically just a few turbines being built, and then obviously the cost of electricity is very high. But as you increase your installed capacity, so the cumulative installed capacity, the cost obviously comes down. And the 100 mark here is the €100 per megawatt hour. That is something of the sort of magic limit, you can say, in this industry. And it looks like we are able to reach that somewhere around 50, 60 megawatt of installed power. So we really think that this is attractive enough for us to be taken very seriously by the industry. And obviously we're backing this up with solid material and simulations and analysis behind it. So it's easy to produce an LCOE curve, but the difficult thing is to back it up with solid analysis behind it. And that's what we really think we have now. So this is going to be very exciting to take this and show that to the market. So our business plan is to, for the foreseeable future, for the next years, we will basically try to make our revenue from engineering, doing feasibility studies and design work with customers. We will be selling our technology license, very typical business model for companies like us to our customers. And of course we will continue to apply for soft funding. That is a continuous process in the company. So that's how we try to generate revenue here and income. And now over the next year you will see us much more active in conferences. We will be more active in social media, we will be updating the website more, we'll produce much more news, and we will be much more visible to the market. So already now in May, in fact the day after tomorrow, we are sponsoring the only offshore wind conference here in Sweden. It's actually here in Gothenburg, just down the road. First time we'll be showing our models, and then on the 21st, 22nd of May, we're going to the big conference in Norway called Floating Wind Days. Big global floating wind conference, and we will be there with a big stand, all of our brochures manned up, the model and everything, and really show this to the market there. We will be presenting twice on the stage there, both about artificial intelligence, how we are using that in our development work, and also to pitch our technology. In June, we go to the UN Ocean Conference in Nice. We have been invited there specifically by Business Sweden. It should be very interesting, and we're looking forward to that. And we are presenting at a conference in Bergen, in Norway, called Bergen Wind Academy. It's an insurance conference discussing the risks of floating offshore wind. So also we have been invited specifically to present our technology there to the insurance industry. And in Q3, Q4, we have a good idea of where we want to be and where we want to be seen, but we haven't decided on anything yet. But you can rest assured that we will be visible in the second half of the year as well. So that is the last slide for me.